everybody. As you can see, we are in for our last Youth and College Division session for this afternoon. I hope you guys have been enjoying our session so far. I knew I didn't want to do a whole bunch because I am zoomed out. I know many of you are as well. It's finals week for you, some of the youth in college division. So we really just do not want to keep you, all day. So there are other sessions going on. So thank you so much for taking the time out today to join our session, which will be our last one. Hopefully we can be a little bit more interactive, you guys using the chat box and really engage with us on this session. So I'm going to turn it over to Carrie, our State Youth and College Division President.
Thanks, Maria. I do see that there is a hand raised in the from one of the attendees. Oh, never mind, it's gone. All right. So yeah, definitely thank you all for being here. Um, I'm Carrie. If those of you all who are not on the previous presentation, I am the state president for Indiana as well as a Purdue student and the president for the Purdue unit as well. So today we are going to be talking about knowing your rights. So I'm going to share my screen for you. Okay. All right, we're just gonna go ahead and dive right into it. So something that I like to tell my friends just on campus, being that we do go to a PWI, and I'm not sure if you all are familiar with the West Lafayette area. It's pretty much a sundown town, but I just make sure I tell them, make it home by any means necessary. And what I mean by any means necessary, whether you have to sit there during a traffic stop, completely silent, whether you need to just sit there, just comply, do whatever you need to do to not get yourself killed, to be honest. So we're going to jump right into it. So you're right. You do have the right to remain silent. You are not required to speak. You can identify yourself. And, then from there, if you don't want to potentially say anything that may jeopardize you later on, you can most definitely keep your mouth shut. You can refuse to be searched. It is not a required thing. Consent is definitely something that the officers must have. But also, if you are not under arrest, you have the right to calmly leave. However, if you are being pulled over in a traffic stop, you cannot just drive off because at that point, you're fleeing from the police and stuff like that, which is a charge. So definitely don't do that. But you definitely as well have the right to a lawyer if you are being arrested. Make sure that once they really begin to read those rights off to you, that you are then requesting your lawyer. And then from there, I highly advise you to just not say anything else after that, just for the fear of potentially jeopardizing yourself, and they might try to use something against you in the court of law. So your responsibilities, remain calm. Definitely don't want to do anything that may provoke the officers. As we've seen nowadays, it doesn't take much. They're honestly, some of them are very trigger happy. We want to make sure that we're keeping ourselves safe. And the first way to do that is just to remain calm and comply. Definitely do not interfere with the police business or become combative. One of the worst things you can do is become combative because we've seen how simply standing there can, in the worst case scenario, definitely don't. If you see a policeman conducting business, if you would like to record, that is most definitely within your right. However, I do advise that you do it at a safe distance because if you do get too close, it can potentially put you in a situation that you were unintentionally interfering with police business, and then they can hold that against you later on. Also, do not give false information. So if they're asking for your name, give them your name. If they're asking if you know anything, you know what I'm saying? Like, let them know if you do or don't, you know what I'm saying? Do not lie to the police. It will do you a huge disservice later on if they were to find out that you were lying, as well as recall all the details of the encounter that you do have. Whether you need to write that down or, like I said a second ago, record it, that's perfectly fine. But make sure if you feel like your rights are being violated, that you do recall everything that transpired during the encounter. So if you do get stopped for questioning, don't run, don't argue. If you run, look guilty, they can definitely try and say you were resisting arrest or something like that. Keep your hands visible at reach for your cell phone. If they do ask for identification, make sure you state that you're going to reach in your pocket or in your purse or something like that, to let them know that you are reaching for your identification only. Um, and then, of course, ask if you are free to leave. If you are, just make sure that you leave calmly and quietly. Don't give them a reason to potentially say you tried to harm them or they fear for their life or anything like that. Don't get disrespectful either. Definitely don't want them to try and change their minds if you are free to go. But if they say you cannot leave, you absolutely have the right to know why you cannot leave. Because in that case, if they do not have a probable reason, they're then unlawfully arresting you or detaining you. So obviously they cannot do that. But yes, you must ID yourself if you are asked. I know that is something that a lot of people do not believe is true. However, it is very much so true. And then honestly, um, even if it wasn't true, just do it honestly to save yourself later on, and then in the moment as well. Just keep the tension as low as possible is my best advice. And like I said a second ago, searches can only be conducted at your consent. And then on this one, we're going to talk more about the vehicular stops. This is something that we've all seen. Some of us may have been a part of, a couple of them. Um, I always tell all of my friends and family members, keep your hands at 10 and 2, just to ensure that they can see your hands at all times. Do not give them a reason to think you're reaching for anything. Keep your head straight on forward until the cop, if on your left and the right, just keep your head on swivel, but make sure you do not move your hands. Um, your license and your insurance must be shown. And this even happens if you were to get into a car accident. They're going to ask for your license and registration. So just make sure you have that readily accessible. Something that I do, I either keep it on top of the items in my glove box or I'll put it in a Ziploc bag. That way I can just take it out right to them, simple, easy, nothing to be confused about. Um, and then with the searches, they can only be conducted with reasonable circumstances. So if they were to smell marijuana, if they were to smell alcohol in your breath, or you've seen like you were under the influence of something, then they see some contraband as well in your passenger seat, back seat, anything like that. They can then conduct a search. But probable cause is defined as if you violated the law, and the suspicious activity, and of course, like I said, alcohol and marijuana, things like that. Um, Oftentimes, we've seen in videos where cops will just reach in to pull the suspect out when it's just, in that case, unlawful. So just make sure that you are very aware of that, because when the officer pulls you over, they must tell you, why they pulled you over. If it's broken tail light, something like that. And even if I've had a situation like that before, I was once pulled over for what was supposed to be a broken tail light. Um, but I had to ask the officer, can you tell me which one it's on? Because usually with cars, your broken tail light, it'll start flicking a little faster, but neither one of mine were doing that. So, and then told me that he just really just pulled me over to pull me over. In all honesty. Um, and technology truly saves lives. We've seen countless videos of our Black brothers and sisters losing their lives. However, we would not have known their story had it not have been for technology. And then we've also seen countless videos of officers when they do get put on camera, they often change their actions or they switch up what they would have done. Body cameras actually help for that as well as giving them a new sense of accountability, letting them know that Big Brother is truly watching you, whether you want it to happen or not. So just how it works overall. Um, Record the encounter if possible, and then make sure that if it is something that you deem unlawful, if you can blatantly see that your rights have been violated, share that video with everyone ask them to share it. That way you can get your information across, let the people know basically what happened to me in my city, blase, stuff like that. And then, of course, organize with your local NAACP unit, either their legal committee, or if you have your own lawyer, that's most definitely fine as well. Um, you know, Organize with them to see what it is that you all as a whole can do, to make sure that instances one like this do not happen again, and then two, to make sure that officer is held accountable as well.
Carrie, for the recording, isn't it nowadays for Siri, she can automatically record you? How does that work? You know anything about that?
Yeah, so you can, you know, for iPhone users, I'm not for sure about Android, but I know for iPhone it's specific. You can be like, "Hey Siri, start recording," and so Siri will then begin to record your video. Um, Also, if you were to Google search iPhone police shortcut, I actually have it on my phone. If I was to say, "Hey Siri, police," it will then activate this shortcut in which it will send a text message to my family members, "Hey, I've been pulled over," and it'll also send my current location, and then it will also begin to record the inside camera video. And then once the video gets stopped, whether it's by me or if it's by someone else, the video will automatically send to my family members, and it will post on one of my social media pages the instance that happens. So definitely look into that, and if I can find that link, I would definitely send that out in the group me. And then towards the end of this, while we're doing the compliance and the Q&A, we can definitely look into that a little deeper. Yeah, thank you for that, Maureen. I forgot about that actually.
Did you see the comment for in the chat?
No, let me go look real quick. Oh yeah. So yeah, Kyle got it. Just to Google the police, Siri police shortcut. So this right here is just some terminology that you often hear when it comes to dealing with the police. A misdemeanor. It's a, like I said, less severe crime, usually punishable for a fine most times. A felony is one of the more serious ends. That's where you get into like your murder, your assault, and stuff like that. That's when things can get a little tricky when it comes to dealing with the court of law. And then detained, that is the majority of the instances that we've seen with the police through video. They do not detain; they really just shoot first and ask questions later. Um, but actual detain is just basically the restriction of autonomy that can happen with reasonable circumstances. So, in order to be detained or arrested, they have to have a reasonable circumstance to arrest you or detain you. So, if you're being very blatant, and if you're not really complying with them, if you're being, a little combative and stuff like that, then in that case, they can detain you, handcuffs and such. But y'all know me, I do short presentations, so I'm definitely going to open the floor up right now for questions, and then we're going to move to compliance afterwards, in which we're going to talk more specifically to our units. So if you all have any questions right now, definitely drop them in the chat, and I'm going to also look up the shortcut for the Siri for the people who have iPhones. So I was able to find the shortcut link that I have. Um, I'm going to put it in our group me for the Indiana, and then I'm also going to send it in this chat in a second. It'll just take me a second. Does anybody have any questions about any of the information that was displayed today? So I see the first question. It says, how do you fight against the justice system who loves to lock up youth of color in adult facilities? That's actually a very, very good question. Truth be told, I really being Miss Barbara, you might be able to speak more about this, being your background in the law. Um, I'm not 100% familiar with exactly how when it comes to trying a minor as an adult, and then if they are still trying as a minor, locking up in adult facilities. So, Miss Barbara, do you have any insight on that?
Okay, could you please repeat the question? I ended up getting frozen, had to go out and just came back in.
Oh, no, yeah, you're fine. So the question on the floor is, how do you fight against the justice system who loves to lock up youth of color in adult facilities?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. In order for them to be able to do that, that means that they have waived you from the juvenile system up to the adult system. So what you first do, you fight it on the at that initial hearing level, because if you're under 18, for most of the things that you are accused of, because remember at this point it's just an accusation, then it's going to start initially in juvenile court, and unless it's been something that has been automatically a waiver to adult court. But for most of the things, they'll start in juvenile court, and in juvenile court, the prosecutor will have to file a motion that your case be waived to adult court. And it's at that point that we've got to fight it. You got to make sure that that you've got somebody, an attorney, an advocate on your side, your parents, that will be fighting for you to make sure that that doesn't happen. So it's easier to kind of stop you from getting there than it is to try to get you out. But that's the process.
Got you. Definitely. Thank you for that. I see the second question right here says, um, if you are a minor, are the police required to contact your parents? I'm pretty sure they're not required to do so, but if I remember correctly, the children can refuse to answer the questions until their parent or their lawyer is present. Is that correct, Ms. Barber?
Absolutely. And right now, remember, we're talking about Indiana law because we're right here in Indiana. There was a bill that was pending um, in our last legislative session. So last year, and that was one of the bills that was pending, that before the police take you from the location where your parents knew you to be, either they dropped you off at a dance, a school dance, at a game, before they can take you from that point to the police station, then they have to notify your parents. That bill didn't pass, which is why we've got to let our first of all, we've got to um, elect legislators that will make common sense laws, and that's just a common sense law. Any person who is a parent has to think, before my child is moved anywhere, I want to be notified. But that's not the law. So yes, they can take you and then start to ask you questions, but we have to educate our children, just like your previous session where you talked about the 10 and the 2 and know your rights. One of your rights is to remain silent, and they're supposed to tell you that right up ahead of time. But they'll say, "Oh yeah, but if you just want to have a conversation," when they tell you that you have a right to remain silent, that doesn't mean that they're not going to ask you again questions. And even if you say, I want my parents, because you don't have a lawyer, you typically don't have a lawyer you're going to call. I want my parents, and that's all you say. I want my parents. I want my parents. You don't even have to say, I'm not answering anything. I want my parents. That's it. Call my mother, call my father, call my grandmother, call anybody who is responsible for you, and that's going to speak up for you on your behalf. Because one, again, what we're just saying is your parents, your guardians, whoever, don't even know where you are at this point. So then nobody's looking for you. They're thinking you're still at the same place where you said you were going or where they dropped you off. So that's all comes out your mouth is call my mother, call my mother, call my auntie, call my grandma, and you can give them the phone number, but that's it. Give them no more information. Say nothing else. Don't argue with them. Don't try to explain your side. Say, well, if you just tell us this, then perhaps this will all be over and then you can go home. Just tell us what happened. Mm-mm. I want my mama. I want my daddy. I want anybody, whoever. That's all you say.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you, Ms. Barbara. I do see another question on here, asking if detained should be listed before a misdemeanor felony. This wasn't necessarily a chain reaction diagram. This was just simply for definition purposes. But I do see the second half of that question. It says, can you be detained for a misdemeanor violation? Is that what you're asking? Who's that? Mr. Lang, I believe it was. If you could clarify what that second half of the question is asking, that would be great. But I do see another.
Carrie, I wanted to go back to that other question. This is Maureen. I wanted to talk about where it talked about what do we do? How do we fight against this justice system who loves to lock our young people up? And I think the best thing is just to educate those around you and making sure that everybody knows what your rights are when you are pulled over. How do you act in certain places when you go somewhere? So it really starts, it's like a ripple effect. If you have young people in your family, let them know. If you're a part of a parent, if you're a parent, let your kids know, let their friends know. I think it's just about educating ourselves to be able to educate. And then it doesn't have to be all long drawn when you're talking to young people. Make it short, make it sweet, but let them know, because that's how we're going to get this. Hey, when you get to see the police, don't run, don't do X, Y, and Z. But if nobody tells them, they're not going to know. So it's on us, as many of you that's on the call are adults, it's on us to be able to let them know, hey, no, this is not right. You see it. But the way we come to them, make sure we have an approach, not just preaching down their necks, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I see he said, so a parent has no rights stopping the court from sending an underage to a higher court in its initial hearing. He said, so yeah, I guess that was the question. So he's saying, so a parent does not have any rights to stopping the courts from sending an underage youth to the higher court in its initial hearing. Is that correct?
Okay. Is that okay? The question. When you say a higher court, again, in the beginning, if the person is under 18, then they're a juvenile. Again, they're detained. The parent is supposed to be notified at the initial hearing. Again, the prosecutor has to ask that the child be waived to adult court, and certainly in all of the juvenile hearings, the parent has a right to be there, and they have a right to speak up for their child, notify all of the reports, anything that's dealing with their child. Yes, that parent has an absolute right. When it gets to waived until adult court, then that becomes a problem, because now you're not in the role of being an advocate or being a parent. This is the big leagues. This is adult court, and you have to have an attorney. Either the person speaks for themselves or they have to have an attorney to speak on their behalf. But while it's still in the juvenile system, then a parent absolutely has the right to speak up on that child's behalf.
Yeah, and then I believe he clarified his second half of the question, in which he was saying, can one just be detained for a misdemeanor violation that may never become a charge?
Okay. You can be detained. The question becomes for how long. They can, they can detain you for questioning. Maybe you're as a witness about something. But if they're detaining you and you're not the subject, and you say I want to go, then they've got to arrest you. Anytime that they stop you from leaving from point A to point B, at that point they've got to arrest you. And if they arrest you, then they've got to read you your rights, and everything else follows before. But when they said, okay, well, I'm just stopping you to ask you a question, um, you know, you can refuse to answer that question. They're gonna say, well, well, either you answer it or we're gonna take you down, wherever. So it kind of depends on what that questioning looks like. But again, maybe the question needs to be, am I under arrest? But you have to be really careful, because the police feel that just asking them a question is challenging them. They feel, you don't have a right to ask me anything, and that certainly is the attitude we're seeking to change. A simple question does not challenge your authority. Certainly not kind of the way you ask your question, what the tone in your voice is. Yeah, they play a role in it as well. So like I said, we got to check ourselves. We have to check ourselves, and and be respectful. Can I ask you why you're stopping me? They ask you for ID. They absolutely have a right to ask you for ID. What you want my ID for? They have a right to ask you for your ID, and you need to produce it. And young people have a habit of not carrying their ID on them. I have a son, so I know what young folks do, but you have to carry your ID at all times, because they're going to ask you for your ID, and you have an obligation to produce it when it's requested.
Madam President, it's so true. I know for me, for my young person, she never has her ID. I was almost to the airport and I said, where's your ID? Oh, I left it at home. Like, I understand. It's just something that we have to, but like you said, it's the way we talk and the way they come across. Those are things that we just have to work on as a community, and how we talk with each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Miss Barbara, that actually brings a question to my mind. Being that we are in a digital world now, is it accepted, or do you know if it's accepted for someone to have a picture of their ID on their phone?
That's a good question. I am not sure. I can certainly look into that, and certainly, talk to some of the people who are in law enforcement. If you know of any of people in your communities who are in law enforcement, you just kind of run that question by them, to see. But because a lot of times that people are allowing you to have the picture of your insurance card when they ask you for your insurance, that's acceptable. I can't tell you that that's acceptable, because I really don't know. All I can do is say that I can ask, and even if we get the response that, oh yes, that's acceptable, if the person who's standing there with the badge on and the uniform says that's not acceptable, always remember this. If you don't remember anything else, you cannot win an argument there on the streets. You can't win it. It is not going to be an argument between you and that police officer, your word against theirs, because you're going to be dead, and it's just going to be their word as to what happened. So, so if they say, no, that's not acceptable, say, okay, well, that's all I had. I'm sorry. Somebody, maybe say, somebody told me I could use this, but I don't have my ID with me, and then we can challenge it later. But I want you to be there so we can hear your voice as to what happened.
Okay, so I see a couple more questions. Again from Mr. Scully says, what about the state not letting youth out on bond?
Okay. What about the state not letting youth out on bond? If a bond has been established for a young person, then they have to honor it. And that's what the police department, because they're the ones who detaining you. And if the court, and it's the court that has set the bond. So if the court has said that you can be released once you pay whatever that amount is, then they have no other choice but to let you out. And again, if they don't follow the law, then you have to challenge them, in the right forum. You can't stand there and argue with them and say, I'm supposed, again, you can't stand there and argue with them. You accept it at this point, and then you take it up the chain, because that person, everybody has a boss. Everybody has a boss. So if the person that you're initially talking to, the officer at the desk, says, no, we're not letting you out, and that person has a bond that has been established, okay, then we'll take it to their boss, and then we'll take it, wherever else we need to take it.
And I see Miss Krista, she said, how old do you have to be to get an ID? I don't believe there is a minimum on that, as far as I know. I believe the cost of it is around $9, if I remember correctly. However, I know a lot of people really don't get them until they get their permit. But I've definitely known someone to have it at 13 just because their parents are kind of proactive about it. But as far as I know, there isn't a minimum age.
Go ahead.
But we were also flying over. But
okay.
Oh.
And contact your Secretary of State on that question about how old do you have to be to get an ID. Contact your local Secretary of State at the Driver's License Bureau or whatever, and they'll be able to answer that question. I don't know. I guess technical difficulties. I'm sure Maureen will be back.
Yeah, I see her chat or her picture is back. Maureen, can you hear us?
I don't see it.
Now I can't. I was dropped. I was just trying to text you, say I was just dropped in the middle of my conversation. I don't remember.
We were talking about the ID, the age of getting
sorry.
an ID.
Okay. Yes, and that was just so that we can fly internationally. As far as if you're flying within the U.S., it was 18, and we have it at least by 18. Is there any more questions?
Just to clarify real quick, Maureen, your audio is kind of breaking up. I think you said just make sure that you have it by at least 18. Was that correct?
Yes, yes.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, are there any more questions on this matter? Okay, if not, Maureen, I think we're good to switch over to compliance.
Wonderful. Well, I know a lot of you are adults that are also part of our call. And then we just wanted to go through a membership, making sure that if you know a young person that is not involved in the NAACP, we want to make sure that they are involved. Membership is $10. Young people under the age of 25 in the youth council, 15 for college chapters. And it was remiss if we did not talk about making sure we youth council and a college chapter in your state. This is here for knowing your rights. I think it's another way of knowing your rights is many of young people.
Maureen, can you hear
I'm
us?
not sure. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
I apologize. I was saying, I know we're on the podcast for knowing your rights, but I did not talk about how to make sure you are getting young people involved in the NAACP, and making sure you have a local youth council and college chapter in your city, and being that advocate for the young people and making sure you're paying that membership and helping our young people out. So in order to know that you have a chapter, you must have 25 young people involved and paid their membership. And then then you have an election of officers, and then you pay that information to the national office. So we want to make sure that we have young people and adults on the call today. If you have not gotten a youth membership or want to pay for somebody in your city, please let us know. Carrie, can you put up our group me information and stuff as well, making sure you're involved with us. We have our Instagram. We are very, not very, very active, but we are active on our Instagram. And we want to make sure that you guys are staying connected with us and making sure that you are being a part of us. So with that, does anybody have any questions? We are doing great on our time. I want to keep it that way. I'm all about making sure that we are keeping in our time limit. Does anybody have any questions? If anybody is new, talk about, well, what is the NAACP Youth and College Division? Carrie, do you want to talk about what the NAACP Youth and College Division, maybe for those that may not know on this call?
Oh, yeah, hold on. Let me get this group me information really quick.
So while he is doing that, also we have, I see a lot of participants on here. Not sure where everybody is from. I've seen a couple people say like Fort Wayne, Marion. If you can shout out where you are located, that would be awesome so we can see you guys as well and hear from you. Great. Thank you. Jeffersonville is in the house. Who else do we have on the call? Columbus. Oh, welcome. These are great cities because a lot of them do not have young people that is organized in your city. I'm glad to have you guys on. All right. Anybody else? Lafayette, West Lafayette. Hey, Miss Sadie. President Scully, thank you so much for being on. Gary, thank you so much. Terre Haute, Kokomo, Columbus, Monroe. Excellent. Fort Wayne. Anybody else? Has everybody been enjoying themselves so far this conference?
Definitely.
Yeah, I know I'm not a boring person, so I wanted to make sure we get time to talk to you guys because, so many times with everything going on, but I really wanted to talk about making sure that we have our young people involved. We have all you guys that are adults on this call, so I am hoping that we can have a conversation next semester about getting young people involved and getting them activated in your communities, in your local college chapters. So I am hoping, and I will also drop my contact information in the chat so that way we can have these conversations offline after this conference to really make sure that we have young people involved here in the state of Indiana. You know, so many times we say, oh, the young people are our future. No, they are the present, and we need to make sure we're equipping our young people with the necessary tools and resources that they need in order to be successful. So that's why I'm so glad you dropped your cities. Carrie has to put up on the on there. So I'll let Carrie do that.
So actually, Maureen, I don't have the rights to the group me. You do. So I tried to share it. I was going to email the link to myself, but I'm not an owner or an administrator, so it would have to be done by you. So,
I mean,
but yeah, definitely want to echo what Maureen said. Definitely want to thank you all for being on here. I did see a couple of these names I recognize. Some of them I didn't. Definitely reach out if you all have any questions. If you all want to get a youth council started in your area, most definitely let us know. I'm very familiar with the process. I reactivated the Purdue unit. It's a whole lot, but it's not as much as you think. It may seem a little intimidating at first, but we can definitely get it done if you would want that. Um, that being said, are there any questions regarding anything about your units, or any questions that you all might have about starting a youth council? So I did see. Can I sign my
yeah,
son
I
up for
saw a
the?
question in there.
Yeah, can I sign my son up for the college? How does that work? Is your son currently attending a college university in Indiana? Who asked that question?
They said no. So what you do is either call or text me or email me, and then if they are where are they located, between Carrie and I, we know a lot of chapters across the United States, especially with social media. Oh, Illinois. Okay, perfect. So
Okay.
we
Yeah.
actually have not a great relationship, but I do know a lot of chapters there in Illinois, and we can make sure we are reaching out to them to give them the contact information. Because I knew I had a young lady here from Anderson, and she was going to LSU, and I found them via Instagram, and she was able to become a member of their chapter in LSU. So the social media has is a great tool that we can use. So I got your information, and I will send it off to you in a little bit.
And then I see another question says, as an advisor, I would like to know how other units motivate their youth council. So if there's any other advisors in the chat, definitely drop some insight right there. Maureen, do you have any idea? Well, okay, I'll speak first. Actually, I'm not an advisor, but I am a youth on a college campus, and it's probably even harder to do so, getting people activated just because we have the stress of college itself on top of trying to get a unit together. Um, One thing I would say is just don't get discouraged at the end of the day. And then recognize the season that we're in right now. 2020 has been a year. It has been a year. It's been a year of reflection for sure. So if anything, don't take this year to heart. It's one thing that I would say. But just continue to push as best as you can on your youth, that to remain active, remain activated, and just to try your hardest to keep them engaged. um, it is a little difficult, especially with the age group. I think that was Miss Tracy. The age group that Jeff is a little difficult with their development and stuff like that. But Maureen, do you have any type of solidified things that you could, maybe some type of not a task force, a toolkit?
Right. I mean, as many of you know, I was a youth council advisor for 10 years in Anderson. And then now I've been the state advisor for probably about 13, 14 years, which my time is wrapping up. But anyway, I would say the way to motivate them. I mean, not all the time do we have to be about business. There could be some times that we just go hang out, not hang out because I'm not their friend, so to speak. But I'm talking about like let's go to lunch, let's go to dinner. Have them come up with their ideas. I know down in Jeffersonville you guys are doing an awesome job. If y'all don't know, Jeffersonville Youth Council held a very peaceful protest this summer, which was phenomenal. Too bad we can't have it open up and people talk, because I really wanted them to talk about some of the things that are going on in the state of Indiana. But I mean, just not always have it be about business, and allow for times for them to act silly. I remember when we were driving somewhere with my young people, it was to New York, and they was like, Miss Marine, we want to go to Canal Street because we want to go shopping and get them purses. And so I had to do what I had to do. I didn't really want to, but I allowed for them to have their time. Young people will tell you what they want if you just allow for yourself to open up and be with them. Um, and so they'll let you know what they want as well too. But I mean, you ain't gonna be able to pay for everybody money. You're not gonna buy them by giving them food all the time. But I mean, allow for them just to be a young person in a space during this pandemic, especially right now.
Let me see if there's any other questions in the chat. I did want to ask, Miss Pat, do you know if there is a active unit on St. Xavier's campus?
I was going to comment while you're doing that one. One of the comments was saying about how on Instagram everybody is supporting, and we're learning a lot from each other. I could definitely say the same. Be this year. I have connected with youth councils and college chapters all across the country through Instagram. I don't know why everybody really likes it, but I mean, that's fine. I'm learning more about it as well. But we are also connecting to a lot of people through Instagram. Also, Carrie, if you want to put up the youth and college division, their social media at NAACP underscore, that in the chat as well. Follow the youth and college division. That would be great. In 2021. Is anybody in the group chat have any suggestions?
Were you asking for suggestions on programming?
No, suggestions on corporate donations for 2021.
Gotcha.
I don't know if we're going to be doing a whole bunch in person. So I would say just creating your social media platform, making sure you're visible will help with donations. But I don't see us having in-person conferences, probably not next year. So yes, we need money, but I think a lot of times we can still do stuff on over the internet.
And then I know some businesses will like to match other businesses. So definitely think about using that as a tool to get additional donors as well. And I believe Walmart has some type of grant. I'd have to double check into it. I looked into it for a leadership thing I had done in high school. It may have been geared more towards like a philanthropic event or project. They did have several ones on there at the time. This was back in 2017. So definitely, I will look into that and let you know if that's still available.
Sorry, I was trying to put in our Instagram information in the chat. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, INYCNAACPR, like for Region 3. Woo-hoo, Region 3. We are the mighty Midwest region. I hope everybody understands that we are the mighty Midwest region, one of the only states doing a state convening virtual. I just want to say shout out to my state youth president, Carrie Walls, our state vice president, Miss Walls. Kyla, thank you so much for all your hard work. Miss Barbara Bolin Williams for all her hard work, and you guys for being on here, taking your time out your Saturday and making sure that you are a part of our youth and college division. If you are interested in donating, please get in contact with me. We can always take your donations. If anybody was on the last state board meeting, there was a plea and people gave donations, and that's why you see young people on the call today. People's donations allow for registration of young people. So we want to thank you for that. We do have a couple minutes left. If there is any other questions, comments, that will be great. So that way we can wrap up and be on time. So that way nobody is missing anything for the rest of the day.
Quick question, Maureen. Is the NAACP is a 501c3 organization, correct?
I know they were talking about changing their 501c status. We are not tax deductible as of yet. I don't know if it changed. We are, we're now a 501c4. Yeah, we were 501c4. You're right. We want to make sure that, yeah, we're not tax deductible, but they were working on that to making sure that we will be able to get some sort of tax donations for people, tax write-offs. But I'm not sure where that is because I think COVID stopped those plans, because those were some of the things that happened last year. I do want to give a quick shout out. I do have some people that want to make sure that they are, just saying hi. We have Indianapolis Youth Council, Jefferson Youth Council, Fort Wayne Youth Council, a part of. He have some other young people that I see. So I just want to thank you guys so much for being a part of us this afternoon. I'm not gonna hold you long. I'm not gonna go over, and we have a long weekend. And so, Carrie, do you have anything else for us before we go?
Yes.
Thank you.
Drop your cash. Yeah. Drop your cash app for him to donate that money to. And then also I see someone said reach out to the comments. Said they're looking to give out money. And then last point to the Walmart grant I was speaking of. That's the reason I asked about the 501c status, because it is saying that an organization needs to meet one of the following criteria, and the first one is that it is a 501c3 or 19 organization, or that it was a government entity or a public or nonprofit or nonprofit private school. So Walmart is looking to be out of the question for right now. Hopefully we can get to be a 501c3 entity soon. But definitely be on the lookout for other grants that may appeal to us.
Great. And I see there is nothing else in our chat. I want to make sure I got everything. I screenshotted stuff so that way I screenshotted a lot of stuff so that way I can keep it on my phone to make sure I follow up with you all. We're done. I thank you so much for being a part of the Indiana Youth and College Division 2 sessions that we had today, and hope that you learned a lot and got out of it. And I'm sure we'll talk tomorrow, later on today, we'll see each other. And then if not, we'll see everybody in January at our next state board meeting. Thank you again. Carrie, do you want to say anything? And I'm done. Thank you all.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank y'all for being on here. Like always, if y'all need anything, just let me know. The majority of y'all have my phone number. My email is in the chat as well. I will drop my number in here real quick. Any y'all that don't have it or need it, oops, hold on 1 second. So yeah, there's my phone number. If y'all need anything, like I said, just let me know. And definitely for those of y'all who want to get your children or get your whole unit started, just reach out. Yeah, that's all I got. So y'all be safe. Thank y'all.